Did the Cowboys never ring your phone up, Derrick Henry? That never happened?
Never happened. Which I'm not mad. Because, I ended up in Baltimore, so it worked out.
No.
Perfect for me.
And I totally understand, why, me even poking around could be viewed by you in any way, shape, or form as, or for anybody out there to take it that, you might not be happy with the way things worked out. But, Cowboy fans were dreaming of you with a star on the side of your helmet. That's for sure.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of stuff out there talking about me wanting to go to the Cowboys and quotes from the Pivot podcast I did, but just to make things clear, I wanted to be a Raven. They were my number one choice. Like I said before, I didn't know going into free agency if they were still being interested, which they were, and I was happy that they were because that's where I wanted to go. I felt like they fit me. Their culture fits my style, and if they wasn't, then I felt like the Cowboys would have been a good place for me as well because I stayed in the off season. I've been here for a long time. I train here, so it was right down the street. So that's why they would have been another option, and they're a great organization as well. But I ended up at the right organization with the right team. I have a great coach. I have a great culture, and I'm excited for the opportunity.
All right, it's time for our Ravens preview episode of the One Star Cowboys podcast. I'm Kevin Turner, Saad Youssef, John Machota, Kent Garrison. We got a special guest joining us this evening. We're recording this on Wednesday night. It is the legend. You know him from his many years as a scout, his many years over at DallasCowboys.com. You can hear him now 2 to 7 p.m. on the G-Bag Nation over on 105.3 The Fan. It is Bryan Broaddus. Hello, Broaddus.
Hey, good evening, boys. Thanks for having me on tonight.
No, thanks for taking the time. I don't know how you started the. You've been talking about this all week. What was that Sunday? Just go ahead and get it out of your system. What was that?
Why did you ask me? Did you ask me to bring me on this show to kind of have to relive those harsh memories of? You're talking to a guy in the early 2000s with the Dallas Cowboys that there were 3 straight games where we had a 200-yard rusher against us. And I thought I got away from teams just running the ball at me the way that the Saints did. But that was pretty impressive, the way that they were able to it kind of makes you wonder how the Cowboys are built. And built in a way of this the way that football is changing. And I just remember, before I even was started at 105.3 The Fan, being on with, DallasCowboys.com, and metrics was always going to tell you that if you're running the football, it's a wasted down. I can't tell you how many arguments I got in with people, and that's how I get my nickname Krusty with, you got to run the ball. You got to do this, you got to be physical, got to be all those things. And I can't tell you. It's so amazing now to listen to people talk about, you got to run the football. You got to be physical, run the football. And I'm like, well, damn, I was saying that 5 years ago. And, and we went to 11 personnels and all this stuff. And we got lighter up front on defense. We got quicker at linebacker. We got guys that can cover. We got all these wide receivers running all over the field. And now we're back to playing with fullbacks and tight ends and, in a physical running game. And, I give the Saints a lot of credit, going in when you watch the Carolina tape, you saw some hints of what they were going to try and do, with Alvin Kamara and Taysom Hill and, and Prentice, the running back, the fullback, and Foster Moreau. You saw a little bit of what they were going to try and do. And, Dallas saw it, on full display the other day. And you just wonder, as you get ready for this game with the Ravens, you see some similar things with big personnel, with what they would call 22 personnel, 2 tight ends, 2 backs, or 21 personnel, 2 tight ends, 2 backs, 1 tight end, that kind of stuff. And so, it's going to be a challenge again. And plus you've got a quarterback that's very deceptive with the ball, very elusive with the ball. And so now it turns into a different challenge that you have to deal with that. So hats off to the Saints. You wonder if the Cowboys are built in a way. I think the Cowboys are built to play against 11 personnel teams. I don't know if they're built to play against 21 or 22 personnel teams. And I think that's the thing that you're going to have to kind of keep an eye on as this thing goes forward.
Yeah,
Bryan,
that's
go ahead, Todd.
it's interesting that you talked about just how the team is built and everything, because I feel like this is none of this should really be a surprise to anybody that's had a pulse for the last 6 months.
Sure.
I think that's part of, I think, the frustration is the defensive tackles, specifically on defense, the defensive tackles, and then the running back position. I mean, those were two positions that were neglected in the offseason and intentionally neglected, at that. And so I feel like there's been so much in press conferences this week to Zimmer, to Micah, and everything about, hey, is it the scheme or is it the players? Scheme or players? And I just I wrote this piece that's going to be up at the Athletic Thursday morning. I'm like, it's kind of like Jerry, like you have the cook in the kitchen and they have the ingredients, but they don't have the right ingredients. I feel like we're talking in circles here where it's like, sure, the coaching can be great and you can have whatever ingredients, but if you don't have the right ones, then like you're never going to get to the finished product. And it feels like, especially at defensive tackle, like the Cowboys just really don't have what they need from a personnel standpoint, scheme or player effort, notwithstanding.
Yeah. And, where they will disagree with you. And I have to point out, they addressed the position with a first round pick. Mozzie Smith's just not good enough right now. That's the problem. When for years under the Rod Marinelli administration, they never would, Rod Marinelli's attitude was, we don't need a first round defensive tackle. We don't, even though he played with Booker McFarland and Warren Sapp and guys like that. I mean, he played with first round defensive tackles, but they'll argue with you on that side. They'll say, well, yeah, we drafted Mozzie and it just hasn't worked out for him right now. That's the unfortunate thing. When you watch the Ravens or you watch other teams with defensive tackles, big body guys, I mean, they were trying to draft a 329-pound defensive tackle that could two gap, play the run, hold up in the running game. They tried. They didn't get the right guy, it appears. And I think that's the thing right now that it's, you use the word neglect. I don't think. I think the word is misevaluation of the position. And as good as they are as picking plug and play offensive linemen, they've struggled now with that defensive tackle spot. They've tried. It seems like they've tried various guys in that spot, and it hasn't worked out. But they made a big commitment to draft Mozzie Smith, and that's the one I think that's kicking them in the ass right now.
It's just interesting to me that you go back to those Marinelli defenses, and like 2016, they had the number one rush defense in the NFL, and their defensive tackles were like Cedric Thornton and Terrell McClain, Malik Collins and David Irving. And so I get so they haven't had great production from the defensive tackles, but I just don't understand how you can be that bad against the run. And then one other thing, I wanted to mention this real quick because Mike Zimmer very well. So I'm graduating high school in 2000. I'm living in the suburbs of Detroit, Michigan. I'm not familiar with pickle juice game. So he brings this up.
Yeah.
And so I go and look at this up. They had like 5 other games where they gave up 200 yards rushing, and they finished that year 5-11 with the worst rush defense in the NFL. Yeah. I was like, oh, I almost wish I didn't look this up. This is not really help. So can you tell everybody explain that Mike Zimmer is going to fix this rush defense?
Well, I actually lived the pickle juice game.
Okay.
It was one of the hottest days in the history of Texas Stadium field temperature that day against the Philadelphia. And it was Andy Reid's. Andy Reid was coaching there, and we had traded for Joey Galloway. So there's a lot going on in this game, and so the Eagles come in, and this was kind of the beginning of the end for we were starting to think about, my gosh, what's happening here. We were poor rush defense. We didn't have the personnel. I mean, Charlie Garner, just take a pick. Anybody that they handed the ball to that year was rushing for 200 yards. I mean, we were setting NFL records for futility, and it just never, Mike talked about, hey, we have to do this, have to do that. And, Mike's a damn good coach, and Mike's not going to make excuses for how they played. But you watch how Dallas played that game the other day, and Mike will tell you that, hey, we were step slow. They were getting us, they were getting on our linebackers. I mean, I feel like that this team, if they're going to be good playing run defense, I've said it on a bunch of platforms, these linebackers are going to have to be the guys that are getting it done, because, with the defensive tackles and stuff. But when you're a half step slow and you're not playing with leverage and you're not, getting off blocks and you're fighting blocks, it's going to be a long day. And that's the problem. They have got to play faster. They have to play more decisive. They have to read quicker. Now, here's the problem. You're playing the Ravens with a quarterback that's going to pull this ball. He's going to put 3 blockers to the right, and he's going to fake that handoff inside. And next thing you know, Henry's going to be running without the ball. Everybody's going to be flowing. And then the quarterback goes out the back door weak for 15 or 20 yards. That's the problem you're dealing with this offense that you're about to face. But every time I've ever been with Mike, or Mike has figured out things to do, but he's not going to get any. They tried to do things with Watkins, bringing him in, poaching off the practice squad. Phillips wasn't good enough, so that's what they're going to try and do. They're going to continue to try and throw bodies at it. But they have got to figure out, whatever Mike does, he has got to free up his linebackers. They can't fight blocks all day. And if they play slow or not quick enough, they're going to get hooked. They're going to get reached. They're going to get washed. All the things you saw in that game the other day, it could happen again. But they have to play with more, and I'm not going to say urgency, but you have to get to where you need to be. You can't play as a half man. You've got to get squared up. You got to extend, and then you got to get off those blocks. And if they don't, like I said, we're gonna be back here next week talking about what happened in the run game, of the run defense again.
One more quick one about Zimmer. What was he like to deal with in the personnel side? Just, was he in your ear all the time, or he kind of let you guys do your job?
He was an absolute bitch. Yeah, he was a pain in the ass. And I say this in a way of in admiration to Mike. There were times where Mike was very much, he knew what he wanted to do. And then the next day he would come back and he would be, I don't know, I'm not too sure we want to do, and you're like, and I looked at him one time, I said, damn it, Mike, you're killing us. You're absolutely killing us with this. You can't play. You got scouts that are going with you on this stuff. You can't be going flip-flopping about these players. And he's like, well, I know, I kind of look at it a little bit more and I try and see. And I'm like, Mike, don't talk to your buddies on the phone. Don't talk to your other coaching buddies and stuff. Look at your tape and figure this thing out. And he's like, oh, I understand. But Mike has taken the approach of now, and I think if you asked Will, of, hey, just whoever you bring me, I'll coach. You bring me these guys, I'll coach. And, but there was a time there where, Jerry and Steven in the early 2000s asked his opinion. And he was like, yeah, I'm really on this guy. I'm really, yeah. And then the next day it would be like, I'm not too sure. I'm like, man, I go, you can't do this. You can't do this to these guys. We're putting together a board. You can't do that.
I'll tell you what, Bryan, it's so funny you say it, because you've done this for such a long time, and your opinion might be different, and your opinion is definitely gonna be right over mine. But just in my time covering the Cowboys, I feel like they draft the best when they let the scouts do their job.
Yeah, and that's what I've always had this attitude, and it's got me in trouble, and that's why I'm in media now, because I never could keep my mouth shut. I'd always say something to piss somebody off, and then they found a way to get rid of me, which is that's their. But I always said to coaches, like, they would come in and say something in a meeting, and I'm not just talking about everywhere I've been. They would come in and say something, and I would go, "Hey, I don't call third down defenses. I don't tell you where to go for it or not. So don't come here and tell me how to do my job. I don't see me on the sidelines like saying, hey, maybe you want to kick the field goal here instead of going for it. Hey, maybe you want to think about punting. My job is to help you find players. And there were a lot of places, and I think KT will appreciate this because he has a love affair with the Green Bay Packers. And that's where I got my start. We had a head coach at the Green Bay with Mike Holmgren, and that's just a long, long time ago. But you have to have a head coach that's willing to tell the coaches to shut the F up. When things get a little hairy and, in the room and like, well, I really like this guy because, and they start pontificating about a player, and everybody in the room who scouted the player has said, well, coach, maybe, and there's coaches that are right. Hell, John Gruden was right about Isaac Bruce. There's coaches that are right about players, but sometimes you knew who could be really good evaluators and you knew who were poor evaluators. And that was the thing that, we struggled with a little bit. But the biggest problem we had in Dallas was we listened to too many outside sources. That was the biggest issue. When baseball general managers are telling us about players, that's when I go, we've got no shot here today. We got, the guy that Gene Michael, the general manager of the Yankees, is telling us about Drew Henson. I'm like, we got no shot today because we don't trust our own evaluations here. But Mike was good to work with. I love Mike. I mean, but he pissed me off a lot too, and I'm sure I pissed him off too. But to this day, we're both a couple of old dudes, and we kind of laugh about those times when we used to do that.
You mentioned the linebackers a minute ago, and I know a lot of fans were asking, and I know we have positions and we have, a new, not a new scheme really, but like new defensive coordinator.
Right.
Overshone needs to be on the field more than he was on Sunday, right?
Yeah. How do you figure out when you play base defense 89% of the snaps, and Overshone's he's a nickel player. To them, he's a nickel player. Okay, yeah, and I know it's
get your best guys on the field.
Yeah, we say that about the offensive line all the time too. And what happens? They don't play the best five guys.
Yeah, true.
Right? Yeah. So to me, the challenge now for Mike and these coaches is, okay, how do you find ways to get your best guys on the field? And to them, Leofau is their base linebacker. That's their base guy. So, okay, does that mean you could do something with Clark? Can you take Clark off, keep Leofau on the field, and then put Overshone on the field? And yeah, I get it. I get fans, but the coaches are pretty much locked in on stuff when they like, okay, here, this is going to be our nickel package this year. This is going to be our dime package. This is going to be our base. That's why you didn't see Overshone in that game because of all the fullback and tight end and that kind of alignment, the 21 and the 22 personnel that the Saints gave you forced you to play base defense the whole day.
And where would you say like the shortcoming is there though? Like, is that Overshown needs to do more to become a player that can be a part of the base defense, or Zimmer has to do more to trust him to execute in the base defense? I mean, which way does that go?
They love if and you guys cover the team, so you guys are in meetings of when they start to talk about. I have never heard defensive coaches and scouts talk about Maris Leofau like they did after this draft. I mean, Zimmer and all these. I mean, every coach was like that I talked to was, man, this kid's smart. Man, this kid's tough. Man, this kid. It was going to be like he was going to play. They were going to figure out ways to get him on the field. I mean, every scout, when we were interviewing them, during those 3 days of the draft, we had that opportunity. I mean, they couldn't say enough about the kid from Notre Dame. And and you're like, oh, okay, good. Well, they thought so much of him. Now, to answer your question, Sa, this is going to be about with Overshown. Okay, how does when they go on base, how is he going to fit? How is he going to play in coverage? How is he going to play in the various things they're going to ask him to do if he's playing for Leah Fowler or he's playing for Clark? How is he going? That's where they have to determine. Will they be okay with his skill set, playing defense the way they want him to play defense? And, like I said, I think they could probably take Clark off the field, but they like Clark. I don't know if they like Clark as much. Well, I feel like I'm putting words in there, or making guesses. I just know how much they like Leah Fowl. And I just never see him really, coming off the field. If it comes down to, no, we want to play with Clark, no, we want to play with Kendricks, then who's coming off the field? Leah Fowl. And they'll, like I said, it seems like a tall order for a kid that's, and what did they do in the Cleveland game? Nick Visual, when Kendricks went out of the game, it was Nick Visual that went in the game. It wasn't Leah Fowl that went in the game. So it kind of a little bit of a, okay, why now? Why this? Why that? And, but to your point or to your question, Zimmer needs to figure that out. That kid's a hell of a football player. Did he get caught up in some blocks? Did he take a couple of chances he probably shouldn't have taken? Sure.
Well,
but you needed to do something in that game because you're getting your ass kicked.
Yeah. And I think particular for the Ravens game is kind of where it's most interesting, because I asked Zimmer on Monday, if Overshown was going to be the guy that you're going to spy Lamar with, the way that they did with Watson. And he kind of, he gave it I don't know, maybe we use Micah, and kind of, went with that direction. So I'm kind of curious to see how they handle Lamar Jackson, just because, Micah's also your best pass rusher,
right?
And Overshown's an athlete, but I it'll be maybe he just didn't want to show his cards. That's possible as well.
I think Mike didn't want to show his cards, but this is what you need to do if you're the spy. The spy has to be the guy that plays with the best balance, the best awareness, and has to be the best tackler in space. Because if you play spy and all of a sudden that spy overcommits because he reads something or sees something and then reacts, and then this guy comes bailing out the other way, and now you're diving at him and it's a missed tackle, and that thing turns into a 15 or 20-yard gain. But whoever your spy is, best balance, best in space, best tackler, best awareness. Those are all things. You have to have somebody that is spot on, because like I say, the minute that guy breaks, you have to make the tackle right there for a 2-3 yard gain. You can't let that thing break. And with everybody's got their back turned running with routes, and now you got Lamar Jackson in the open field and just, juking and jiving and doing all those things, getting big gains.
And I diving into Ravens prep this week.
Mm-hmm.
I just assumed, because we haven't, when it's not like we play him every year,
mm-hmm.
I just kind of assumed that John Harbaugh was untouchable because he's been there forever.
Might
Dude, they are sick of him. Yeah. Hotter seat than McCarthy, I would even say, which is crazy because we know McCarthy's contract status and all that.
Mm-hmm.
I could not believe. And then I did see a stat too, that he is, I'm sorry, I'm looking at my other screen here. So I've got my notes up here, that since 2019, he is 8 for 30 on challenges, which is a 27% success rate. McCarthy since 2019 is 4 of 10, 4 for 10. So 40%. And he had 2 bad challenges on Sunday. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I know you talked to a lot of people around the league. Let's just for the sake of spicing up the podcast, who would you rather have coaching your team, John Harbaugh or Mike McCarthy?
You're going to laugh at this, but Mike Lombardi and I brought him into the league in Philadelphia.
Wow.
When we were in Philadelphia in 1998, we were looking for a special teams coach, and Harbaugh was about to coach at Indiana. He was going to get a job at Indiana. And I'll never forget, Mike Lombardi walked in. He goes, "Man, I got this." It was Ray Rhodes was the head coach that one year. You remember Ray there at Green Bay there, KT.
Oh yeah.
And one and done. I think that didn't happen too often in Green Bay. But anyway, Ray's the coach. We're looking for a special teams coach. And Mike identifies John Harbaugh and says, "Man, I got a good young coach for you here. I got a guy I think you'll like. He comes from a football family. Dad's a big time coach, and just on and on and on." And we brought in John, and Ray loved him, and man, and then Andy loved him. I mean, he got to stay over, with Andy, when they started letting go of guys and things, and Andy kept him, and then he got the opportunity to go. He's been at the Ravens, so it feels like forever, but maybe I have to say that I would want to keep Mike because Mike and I now have the same agent in Don Yee, so
Yep.
maybe I can't dump my my buddy who's we're all on the same team now, the team Yee.
Well, Harbaugh's first year was when they closed down Texas Stadium with the two long runs at the end. That was his first year in Baltimore. So
it's been a long time, man. My man has been in the league, but yeah, Michael Lombardi and we were in Philly, and Michael had a plan for the guy. Matter of fact, Indiana, they got mad at us because they're like, "Hey, he's not coming to do one of those jobs where he's getting coffee for everybody," which we did with Sean Payton. Sean Payton was the lowest guy in the totem pole when we were in Philly, and Sean was like, "Get the coffee guy." And next thing you know, he goes from coffee guy to Super Bowl winning head coach.
It is kind of funny though how so they're getting sick of him. Like, what head coach kind of leaves on their own terms? Yeah. Tom Landry didn't. Bill Belichick didn't. No. Andy Reid, they let go to Andy Reid in Philadelphia.
They did.
I mean, there's already getting to a tipping point. I bet in I'm not following them super close, but I get the feeling in Pittsburgh with Mike Tomlin, like all these coaches, like how many coaches really get to sit there and be like, "No, I'm kind of done here at the top. I'm going to leave. Everybody's going to just praise me." Like it doesn't happen. Everybody gets, McCarthy in Green Bay, like eventually Sean Payton in New Orleans. I guess Sean Payton in New Orleans. I think it was pretty, was it still good when Sean left?
Sean kind of saw the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
He saw,
and he bungled the whole cap situation and then was like, I don't want to deal with all this.
Like, this TV stuff might be good for me for a little bit. I can kind of lay low. But yeah,
I'm seriously I'm trying to think of it right now. Like Don Shula, maybe.
Yeah, I think with Don Shula would be the one. I'll say what's funny. You talk about coaches. It's amazing how Tom Landry and Bill Belichick's careers ended almost the same way. Landry for all those years, and then they started having bad drafts, and then all of a sudden, 87 season, 88 season.
Yeah,
they're awful. And the drafts caught up. And the same damn thing happened to Belichick. They're like, go all these years, winning Super Bowls, doing this, that, and the other. And then the drafts catch up. And they're like, when I tell you, when you're winning, they'll teams will put up with a lot of crap. Front office will put up with a lot of crap when you're winning. When you're losing, they will turn on you in a heartbeat. We need to get rid of this guy.
I'd love to see Tom Landry do all these Manning casts and everything like that, trying to get back into a job after he got let go by Jerry. It's just painfully obvious that Bill is trying everything he can. He talks so highly of the Eagles, the Cowboys. Anytime he's asked about them, he's very smart. Like he knows what jobs could potentially be open.
Yeah. Also with Landry, isn't that around the time that Danny White was leaving too, and then with Belichick as long as Brady left?
Yeah, exactly. They had both those coaches had an incredible run. Trust me, all these pennants behind me are all from Texas Stadium when I was a kid, the 1970s. All these pennants, every one of these, and that's going to games and my family had season tickets for 20 years. I saw winning football. My poor son, who's 20 years old, and he's trying to be a fan. He really is. He's trying, but it's hard. It's hard because you're just like, Dad, I'm never going to see. And no, don't get depressed. And here I am every year I saw an NFC championship game. I was at the game when Alvin Harper caught the slant against Sam. I was at Candlestick. I mean, I've seen some great football, but yeah, it's but to the point, like I say, with Harbaugh, it is a little bit of a man. You got to find a way to, even though this guy has brought them a championship and brought their playoff success here recently has not been good, and I think that's something that the fans these Dallas fans get mad, man. Those Baltimore fans get mad too. I guess everybody gets mad all around the league.
And, they got the Bills and the Bengals in week 4 and 5.
Mm-hmm.
And, look, it's hard to be super positive about the Cowboys after what just happened. They are bitching about the offensive line. I mean, dude, this is the matchup of one of the worst offensive lines in the league against one of the worst defensive lines in the league is happening. If you want to look at defensive tackles, maybe I should say that defensive tackles. I mean, they're the right guard for Baltimore is the biggest punchline in the world over there.
Yeah.
Along with the coach, there's a chance the Cowboys can squeak this out, I guess is what I'm saying. I was like, watch a little bit of that Raiders game too. And like Derrick Henry up the middle. And then once they started running to the outside and attacking the edge, success. And I was just like, oh no, that's what the Saints just did to us. So my big fear is that Derrick Henry just has a huge day because they are running to the outside and we don't know how to set an edge. If we don't
wait, hold
ahead,
on. KT, you don't trust Trayvon Diggs to make the tackle on Derrick Henry coming around?
Not unless this foot is healthy,
I cannot wait to see the first time that happens. That is gonna be I just can't wait to see what Trayvon does. To try to get out of that. It's going to be a very business decision.
How low can you get to the ground? That's going to be, you got to come forward and just dive into the ground and hope he trips over you as he's, it's funny. And you guys, when you watch Henry play, and you're right about Falalale, I think is how you say my guy's name.
Yeah.
The problem with him is that he's the right guard. He's 6'8". He's 380 pounds. This is a problem for them because they like to have some movement with their line. And he is a slow-footed guy. You can watch the Raiders game. And this was where I think if you can get the Ravens into passing situations, I wouldn't be surprised. Put Micah Parsons over him on the outside shoulder. This guy does not handle quickness very well. And that, he's going to lean. He's going to be out of position. And, he gives up more pressures than anybody else on that line. And so to me, if I'm looking, last week I felt like there were a couple different matchups, but you never could get them in a situation where you could take advantage of the guys, And I wonder with Henry, they get in a pistol formation where they put him right behind Jackson, and then Jackson just turns and hands him the ball. I wonder if this week, with what you saw with the Saints, that they try a little bit more with maybe play under center and then with the fullback Ricard and stuff, and try and play just a little bit more toss sweep, or get the ball to, and they do a really good job, in my opinion, when it comes to the size that they have. Their tight ends, and I Likely and our guy from Oklahoma,
Andrews.
Andrews. Yeah. They've got some size guys, and, that fullback. And I think that's kind of a thing. All of a sudden, if you look at the teams that have given Dallas a little problems, it's these teams that play with fullbacks and play with tight ends. They're just, I don't know if they're built to handle a team that plays with power like that. And if I'm the Cowboys, seriously, you guys going to think this is a joke? I'd put as many men in the box as I could and dare them to throw the ball. I mean, fine. Put a guy in every gap and just attack that way and say, okay, if Lamar Jackson could beat us throwing the ball to Zay Flowers all day, then we're going to lose that way. But I'm not going to let them just run over me in this football game. On the flip side of this, if I'm the Ravens, I might play with the lightest boxes you've ever seen and dare Dallas to run the ball, and see how committed they really are to running the football. Both teams are kind of in weird modes right now through week 2. One of them is, with Jackson, he, like I say, I'll challenge him to beat me throwing the ball. That guy last week can throw the ball, but this guy right here is an elite runner with the ball, the quarterback. So, it's like having that extra weapon there, and especially when he pulls it and now you got everybody out of position and he just takes off running. Tough to defend.
Yeah, I think when I was thinking about the whole like Ravens thing, that's like, it seems like an easy thing to almost know. They're going to try to run on you because they just watched the tape. McCarthy even said it. Oh, the tape's always. My question is, do we have the dudes to even handle that? Because my fear is that, and this has been this way for 2 or 3 years, I think, even with a solid team that wins a lot of regular season games.
Yeah.
When this team is not ahead and they cannot tell you that it's a run or a pass on the next play, they're kind of not very good, but they're awesome and can put up tons of numbers, and they look really great when they know that they're ahead and they're passing, and Micah Parsons can just, go get it. I think there's something too, like the whole Shanahan coaching tree thing or whatever. That's a guy who's going to use misdirection and a lot of play action. If they don't know if it's a run or a pass, I think it's a problem. And a big part of that is, are you ahead or not? And that combined with, do we even have the dudes? It's hard for me to just sit there and buy into this again, because I got fooled last week. Before last week, I got fooled by the Cleveland game like an idiot.
Let me ask you guys a question. I'll take over your show real quick and ask you guys a question. If you had to get a new coach, do you want a Shanahan coach or a stopper of Shanahan offense?
I'll be honest with you, Brian. But not like you had me on your show the other day. I really think that as soon as this franchise gets a Shanahan coach, that's going to be the end of that run.
Yeah.
And they're going to be behind the run.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Where it's like, oh, well, now this is figured out. And now you got to deal with 4 years of like, everybody's already figured this out. I lived my whole life. My whole life has been lived up until the last 3 years of the Lions doing that exact same thing where it's like, no, we're going to do this now because this is what everybody else does. But you're actually behind the curve.
Right.
And so that's the only problem that I have with, because on paper it makes sense. Like, well, just get one of these guys then and just figure it out right there. So for me, I don't think that would be, I would not try and do that.
I piggybacking off of that, like I would say the same thing, because for a different reason though, because I didn't have the misfortune of growing up a Lions fan, so I didn't experience all that. But for me, it's like when you have Dak Prescott, you have the offense. Some of that has to just go on their plate. Like I'm like, okay, like if I can get someone that can stop the Shanahan offense and I can lean defense, then I'm going to get a quality offensive coordinator who vibes with Dak, and I'm going to let them do their thing and have the defense taken care of on the other side and kind of, do it in that way. But it's interesting also to what KT was saying. I think, with the Cowboys problem and stopping, when they don't know if it's going to be a run or pass, it reminds me a lot of the dialogue before the 2016 draft, when they were all kind of saying Zeke is not just the running back. He's also a solution to the defense because he's going to keep the offense on the field a little bit more.
That's what Marinelli. That's why Rod Marinelli signed off on the pick, because he couldn't figure out what he was going to do with Ramsey, with Jalen Ramsey. He couldn't figure out. Remember, KT, we were going all through that, and like we kept hearing whispers. He's a safety. They're going to play him at safety. He's the safety. We kept hearing that. And we're all like going,
you're just going to make me angry. Let's stop talking about this.
Didn't they reach out? There's a rumor. I don't know if this is true or not, but this was at least thrown around that they reached out to Dion and asked Dion to evaluate Jalen Ramsey. And Dion was like, I think he's a better safety. Hey, par
Florida
for the course.
State guy, man. Florida State guys.
Amazing. Just amazing. But there's a rumor. Like, we don't know.
It's amazing the talent they have at that Florida State school. It's just amazing the talent that they have at that place.
They're going to turn it around, man. They're about to go
This has been a tough couple minutes for John. He relived his Lions misery, and then now you're rubbing Florida State in his face.
Let me say something.
I'm not rubbing anything in his face. That Florida State team beat my LSU team 2 years in a row. All I can do, John, you're like the nicest human being in the world, because usually when somebody, like if that was Texas beating LSU twice, Clarence Hill would be all my ass about
no
that.
question.
Yeah.
No question.
But no, I mean, I see what you guys, KT, what do you think?
Well,
I mean,
yeah, I was saying, like, if the Saints make the playoffs this year,
Yeah.
Dennis Allen's not getting the credit.
yeah.
Like that credit's going to the offensive side of the ball.
Clint
I got
Kubiak's
questions.
getting credit. Yeah.
Speaking of,
Actually, hold on. If you tell me that you got who the coach is, actually would make a difference for me. If you told me that somehow
Ben
they
Johnson.
get,
we get Ben, we don't
That's
get
what
a
I'm saying.
Senate.
Nah.
We get Ben Johnson.
I was going more along the lines of Matthew Stafford retires and Sean McVay is available.
how much are people loving Dan Campbell if Ben Johnson's not his OC? I mean, I seriously, you can love what the guy's selling.
This is amazing. This is John was on our show earlier, and John threw out something that just set the Twitter our texts on the show on fire. John goes, this team needs to go out and get that Rams defensive tackle, that Aaron Donald. Yeah, just go trade. Go. I don't know if the Rams still hold his rights, but everybody's like, yeah, let's go get.
No, I said, hold on. I said, if there was one move that could be made, if there's one move, that's the one move.
You threw it out there like you were a Schefter, like insider dude. I'm here to tell you. I'm here to tell you that the Cowboys might be looking into.
That's not true.
Trading for Aaron Donald.
I said if there's one move, and I think they still own his rights, but it would be and especially because when I'm going on the show, this is fresh off them losing to New Orleans. So I'm like, I know how down everybody is. Like almost like you can't get any more
lower
down
than whale shit.
And so exactly. And so if there's everyone's in the mood of like, there's nothing that could possibly happen that would change my mood right now. It's like, well, if you woke up tomorrow morning and you found out that they got Aaron Donald, you would turn it around real quick,
Yeah.
But I don't think either are possible. I think even with the Sean McVay thing, I think he too would be under contract. You'd have to trade picks. That's not something the team would do. So to your point, I do think in that scenario, the Ben Johnson thing would be more likely. But
I think Saad's onto something though too. But I don't know if that's Belichick and you can't bring the guy that you can't bring all those guys, right? You can't bring all those guys he's coached with all those years, right?
Hey, Brian, Todd Archer had a good one today at practice. And I don't know if he's wanting me to mention this or not, but I'm doing it anyway. What if we get in this cycle of where Jerry lives a long time and throughout this entire time of his life, it's the whole, at Jerry's age, he's not going to want to go the young route and a coach and start over. Mm-hmm. And then by the time that Steven gets that job, what if he's already at an age where it's like all of a sudden now he doesn't want to do that either because he's getting older?
This sounds like things that were going on in England.
100%. 100%. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the queen stays around till she's 100.
But seriously, wouldn't you be surprised by a Ben Johnson move? I would. That just doesn't seem like something the Cowboys would do.
I think to me though, it makes more sense. Gosh, we're totally going off the rails here, but
we do that all the time.
I love this though. I do love it. Okay, to me, I've always said I don't think they would hire Belichick, and I could be way wrong about this. I think Will and Steven are super comfortable with the way that they operate their player personnel department. I don't think they need Bill Belichick walking in and saying, "You're doing what?
Yeah,
you're going to do this. What? Whoa, wait, what? What do you mean that? Now Parcells came in and Jerry and Steven gave Parcells a lot of latitude. I worked with that one. Bill came in and had his say and all that. And really up until the point of like Jerry drafted Ware, and that's because of Rick Goslin, saving us on that one. But overall, I don't know if I think Will, and I think, by the way, I want to say something here, and I'm probably speaking out of turn. I think Will McClay's, if I had to guess and he had an opportunity, I think he might be considering moving to one of these other teams if given the opportunity. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
I think that we're getting to a point in time now where he knows that if he has to go, he's got to go, but he's got a good gig here. He doesn't really get blamed for too much stuff. Jerry seems to get blamed for a lot.
Sure.
But I'll say
that would be a huge loss though.
It would be. Will's a damn good at his job.
Yeah.
He really, really is. But I just feel like that hiring Belichick here would upset how Steven and Will and Ada Pacifica, and I'm including him because he's the cap guy, how these guys operate.
Yeah.
You know, and they don't want somebody walking in and saying, well, why are you doing it that way?
Well, that's comfortable. You know what? Yeah. Sometimes it doesn't need to be comfortable. And
oh no, but this
I mean,
organization, this organization is about comfortable. You know, it's about comfortable. No one's going anywhere. Like I remember talking to Jason Light before he got Tom Brady down in Tampa. He's like, man, I'm going to get fired. Huh, I'm done. You know, God,
been there, man.
And he's like, man, and all of a sudden Tom Brady shows up in his lap, you know, and he gets a 5-year contract extension. You know,
how lucky. Tom's trying to go to Miami, and we all know it.
my guy Les Snead at the Rams. Les is calling me up. Hey, Broaddus, I'm hearing Gruden's going to get this job here. This is before they hire McVay. I'm like, man, I talked to John. I don't think he's going to go there. No, I don't. Les, seriously? Serious? I'm like, no, I think I don't know who you're going to get, but I don't think John's coming there. And Les had one foot in the parking lot. He's thinking if Gruden's coming in there, he's getting blown out. Next thing you know, he's F those picks and winning Super Bowls, you know?
Yeah.
To your point on the comfort, though, thing, it also speaks to just what's happened recently. Mm-hmm. Them getting the CD deal done, them getting the Dak deal done. People will talk about, let's say in the offseason, if there is a coaching change, like, oh, there's going to be major changes. Yeah. What are major changes? You have the same franchise quarterback. You have your same star wide receiver. Micah Parsons isn't going anywhere. I don't care who the coach is. The team is not going to be that much different. There's too many key pieces that are still here. So there isn't going to be that major offseason change of being all in that. Like a new coach will be a change, don't get me wrong, but you still have Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons, a lot of these other key pieces. They're not, I mean, these young offensive linemen, like it's not going to be a completely. And I think that's the way that the Joneses wanted. I don't think they want to be having these high, ups and downs and major changes and stuff. But I did think this offseason, the way Jerry was talking, that was possible with how he kept saying the all-in thing. I was like, maybe this is what he means, that he'll find. But when you get these contracts done, the personnel on the field dictates things more than anything else.
Yeah, and to that point, to bring it back to the opponent this week, I mean, just look at Harbaugh and the way he ran the offense with Flacco versus when Lamar came there. It transformed the entire offense with the tight ends and the way that everything was run. And he has the latitude to do that. The owner's not meddling into that. And so Harbaugh is running a totally different look of offense with Flacco versus what he is with Lamar Jackson. And he's been able to shape that up. I think, to John's point, I don't think, the coach is making that decision in Dallas. I think the front office personnel people are doing that.
Yeah, see, this could be a situation too where, and John, everybody's right about what they're saying. I think, to me, the coach, the first question that needs to be to the coach is, how can you help Dak Prescott? That's whatever coach is going to come in here, and that's whether they hire a defensive coach or an offensive coach. The first question is going to be, Dak Prescott is our quarterback, and so this is how we're going to need to operate. If you want this job, you're going to tell me how you're going to help him. That's where this thing is going to come down to.
But don't you think most of the coaches available would be happy with that, though?
Oh,
much rather would have.
They'll lie like McCarthy did, saying he watched all the tape and all.
Well, no, but I get that. But I'm saying, even like, let's just look at what happened in Carolina. Like, even if you're a coach and let's say you have 1-1, wouldn't you rather have? Maybe you wouldn't. I'm asking you. Like, wouldn't you rather have the proven thing in Dak as opposed to?
Oh yeah.
Oh, let's just. We think that this Bryce Young kid or Caleb Williams or whatever. Like, it just seems like that a lot of coaches would be like, yeah, no, I can make it work with Dak.
Oh no, this is going to be an inviting job just because of the things you said, John. I mean, the Parsons, the young linemen, you're going to have to replace Zach Martin, but you got a quarterback that's kind of in his prime. You're going to have to replace running backs, the defense. We'll see what happens with the defense, but this is going to be a job that somebody is going to want to take. They're good, but the questions need to be, let's not interview Marvin Lewis and hope for the best. Let's actually have a coaching search I think would be ideal. If
they'll knock that one out first.
I can't talk about my agent brother like McCarthy like that. So I can't believe you guys are trying to get my guy fired.
No,
I'll tell you,
it's embarrassing
Brian,
that I'm on.
He'll get himself fired.
I like dealing with Mike McCarthy. I would be just fine if he got a new deal and remained being their coach. But you got to win the games. You got to win in
You got to,
January.
that's the thing about it. Yeah. And I was just saying all that tongue in
Yeah.
cheek, but yeah, it really is going to come down to, man, this division is so for the taking right now. I mean, I know we're in week 3, but it's so into for the taking with Philadelphia and the 2 other teams,
The conference is.
Yeah.
And that's where I am at. Like it doesn't. I don't even care what the division is right now.
Well,
I don't care if they win or lose
the
division.
playoffs, and then now,
Yeah,
but
that's when it matters.
The conference was you were the 2nd seed last year, and still, you know. So yeah, to me,
That's the thing.
it's the thing. But
It's nothing compared to the AFC. It's
no heck.
where if you are 0-5 or 1-4,
yeah.
you're
Maybe the second best team is 0-2, and they're residing in Cincinnati, Ohio.
maybe. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't think they're calling for the coach's head like they are in Baltimore, though. I mean, they are really talking about some stuff. Let's do some picks. We always do picks, Brian. So I'll go ahead and fire it off first, guys. Baltimore 27, Dallas 20. I'm sorry, Cowboys fans. I just don't trust them stopping. I just don't trust. How could you? Baltimore 27, Cowboys 20. Let's go to you, Kent.
Oh, wow. Well, I think that the Cowboys are going to bounce back from last week.
Homer.
Yeah, big homer. So give me Cowboys 20, Ravens 19.
Ooh.
See, it's funny. Somebody flipped me the line of what McCarthy and them do after a loss. Isn't there like
It's really good. They're
12
very
and
good.
They're like, are we 26-2 or something like that?
It's very
12 and
good.
2.
12-2.
Well, in that
Yeah,
case, we
so.
got to give him an extension too. Sorry, Brian. Sorry, Brian. Tell Don I said hi too.
I will.
Sod.
Man, the defensive tackles are so hard to look past, and that running game over there. But I think I just have a hard time seeing the Cowboys losing again. I'm gonna go with Cowboys 27, Ravens 23.
All righty. John.
I'm going to go with the Ravens too, which is good for the Cowboys because I've been wrong the last 2 weeks. I can't see the Ravens going 0-3, so I guess I'll go Ravens 27, Cowboys 21.
Who's the more desperate team here, boys?
Ravens
think
because
it's-
of what KT just said about their week 4 and 5 matchups.
Yeah, what's ahead and the
Yeah.
conference.
I'm a big guy of the most desperate team theory, and I think Dallas has got kind of a bounce back game the following Thursday against the Giants to maybe get this thing right. It would not be good to go down 0-2 at home, but the Ravens are the more desperate team here, and they'll play with some desperation in this game. Give me the Ravens 28, Cowboys 23.
All right.
You think Derrick Henry runs with some fire for the Dallas chatter of the past offseason?
I'll tell you what, man, if you can get him running sideways, that's the only way you really, I think, are going to stop him.
Yeah.
I mean, but to me, like I said earlier, I load that box up and I'm going to dare that quarterback to try and beat me. I'm going to try and have more guys than you can to block me and hope for the best. And if it turns into, that they make some big plays and make some big plays, but I just can't go through another 7-8 yards a shot. I mean, we were on the press box listening, and our PA guy gives it the Saints are 4-4 on third down, and we were in the third quarter. We're late in the third quarter. I'm like, my gosh, they're playing a CFL game here. They're getting every second down, they're getting the first down. Literally that's what it was. It was every second down was a first down, or the first down was a first down.
Yeah.
They seriously, usually it's the Saints are 6 of 14 on third. It was but they were 4-4, and then we were well into the third quarter by what that was going on. With Dallas,
you just gotta give credit to New Orleans.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We know what
Really
they're
good team.
capable of.
yeah.
Oh, I'm not shocked. We play them every week. Sorry. I didn't like some of the things. There's 2 things I don't like about this. I feel better. You get your butt kicked and this team, every time they're losing, they act like the world's on fire, and you see it in their eyes. They sit on the bench and they pout. And I'm just like, I could use a little Maybe it's week 2. John reminded me, I forgot this. John reminded me yesterday. Like, dude, midway through the second quarter, it was still a 1-score game.
Oh, it was
And
at one point in time. It was it 21-13?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you would have thought.
And then the next thing you know, it's like, after that, it's like they just you kick off and you're thinking, just get a stop here. Get a stop and flip this momentum. And I got to the point where you couldn't even get a stop.
When they're losing, they look lost.
It is a pretty demoralized group.
They need someone to go they need someone like Dez who will just go and just yell at some people.
Give me that.
Bring a fire.
And then everybody gets mad at Dez for being that guy.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, that led to so many parades. Let's keep doing that.
Can I ask one final question of you guys?
Please.
You guys do a great job of covering, being out there in the middle of all that. With Micah Parsons, the whole leadership conversations. How you guys is this something that you're happy with, or is this something that feels kind of forced a little bit? That I've got to take accountability, and I've got to, I'm like, do you think this is something that everybody's taking well, or is this something that, shut the hell up, now all of a sudden you want to be a leader guy? What do you guys as the guys that are around it every day, how you taking all that in?
Yeah, I'll say just for my own optics on this stuff. I say this so much that Saad's probably sick of hearing me say it, but I'm just going to say it again. I never would say that I'm like the greatest reporter or greatest writer or anything like that. But I challenge anybody to have better awareness. I mean, there's just very little things, that stuff that goes on, like optics, that it just very rarely gets by me. Like when somebody will come up to me like, hey, did you see this over there? I'm just like, yeah, there's no chance I would miss that. And I'll give you a great example from today. Like PR cut off Micah's interview super early. He's the last one outside the locker room. I can give you a great example. So it's always interesting. Like when we get like the rookies and stuff like that, when there's just certain guys that you don't know much about, or they just drafted them. And it's always interesting, especially when we're out at training camp and we get to talk to these guys, and certain PR people will stay right by. And you're just, oh, there must be some stuff with this person, because then there's other people like Dak Prescott. You could just let him like go on his own. Yeah. But I think that I think Micah means well. From what I heard, he is probably the most the Dez-like, and was on the sidelines during that game on Sunday. He was one of the more fiery guys on the sideline. Not that the cameras didn't necessarily catch it, but I do get the sense that from the team that everybody doesn't like take it the same way that he does, and that I think it could be coming off a little bit like maybe not as 100% authentic, where it looks good and it sounds good from him, but I don't know if like it's that thing where and again, I'm watching this from afar, but I'll just use this because this is the team they're playing. I always felt that way with like Ray Lewis, like what Ray said went and was the clear like voice and leader of so many of those Ravens teams for so long. I don't get the sense that that's necessarily where Mike is at with this. And I think he could be coming into that, but I think that the actions have to continue to back it up. It can't just be said, And so I think right there, I think that there's a little bit of, I think that the coaching staff would probably prefer him talking less.
Yeah, which is tough to say about a guy who has his own podcast every week. But for me, like I think for what John said, I think it does feel a little forced, Brian, to your point. I don't think it necessarily is, but it looks that way because, it's one of those things where if you're keep telling someone that you're trying to be a leader and like he started the off season with that, like I'm going to be a better leader. I'm going to do this. And then like in press conferences, you're talking about how you're going to be a better leader. And to me, if you're comparing two leadership styles and who I believe is the ultimate leader on this team is Dak Prescott, and you look at the way he talks and carries himself and stuff, there's a lot that you can talk about with Dak on the field, but off the field, there's no phoniness really with his leadership at all. And I'm not saying Micah's a phony, but I'm just saying, there's things that come out from that. So I think he's trying, but he's kind of, to be honest, I'm really impressed with how DeMarcus Lawrence molded into a leader, because that is not a guy that, as someone who has followed his entire career, That's not someone who way back when I would have thought that he's going to become like a true leader of this team. And I think in the locker room, he kind of is that guy now. He is a good leader. So I think Micah's on that journey, but he does let the masses know that he's trying to be a good leader.
You guys are on it, the front lines, and see it every day, like in the locker room, all that. I do want to mention something from the at-home watching on TV standpoint, because I do think the Fox A team, they do telegraph things sometimes. Last year, what was it, week 4, week 5, CeeDee Lamb pouting on the sidelines. What did you hear the rest of the season from the A team? And I'm talking specifically Kevin Burkhardt from Fox, and then Aaron Andrews as well, and maybe if Rinaldi had him. CeeDee Lamb, I mean, everyone says he's not a diva. You know, they went out of their way because the PR team, in my opinion, was handing them, I could be wrong, he's not a diva, he's not a diva, he's not a diva. And I get it. It's a new audience every week. But that team, last week, I heard it 3 times. Micah Parsons, keys to the defense, leader of the defense. We know he's taking over that role. Heard it in week 1. And if we keep getting this, I feel like they've just been told to hit that a bunch of times. That's small and that's not, direct in the locker room stuff. But these broadcasters get these notes from the PR team. And it's just interesting to see that coming, because I was sick and tired of hearing CeeDee Lamb's not a diva in week 13. I was like, we know, stop saying it. They say it every single week. And this year, CeeDee Lamb is not a diva is now Micah Parsons has the keys to the defense. He's the leader of this defense. Just watch for that.
I'm fine with that as long as they're talking about that as opposed to the artwork at the stadium.
Hey, man, the deals get done. Jerry's very important. We need to highlight Gene's work more, by the way.
Hey.
In fact, I'm going to do a whole episode on Gene's artworrt.
Real quick. When we did the podcast after the game and I was like, I had to walk somewhere around the stadium or whatever, I happened to walk by the newest piece. They just actually, the AT&T Stadium just tweeted it out. It's very fancy. It's like it takes up 3 different walls. It's pretty nice.
You still have Sky Mirror out there?
Oh, yeah. You don't get rid of something like that. That thing was flown in from like Italy or something. You're not getting rid of Sky Mirror, dude.
Is the new artwork Jerry is a minotaur?
No, but that would be great. I wish it was something like that
too.
That would be the best thing, because then that would be the thing that people would want to take like pictures with and stuff. No, it's just like it's just an array of colors.
Can we get
every artist ever?
Can we get a mural of Proud Brian at the stadium?
Yeah.
Oh my
God.
I'll have you know, Brian. Proud Brian, the Proud Brian picture is the picture in our group text for our podcast.
It is, yeah.
Do you guys, are we allowed to cuss on here? I guess I cussed.
Yeah,
Go for
yeah.
it.
Okay. Did I guys ever tell you what I was thinking when I saw that? Did I ever tell you guys
Wasn't
it?
It was Morris Claiborne.
Mo Claiborne made an interception, and you were thinking about effing time.
Yeah, he seals the St. Louis games, and I'm on the sidelines, and he walks by, and I had this look, and they froze it and all that. So we get Proud Brian. My mind, you know what I was saying? I went, it's about fucking time.
It's the greatest.
So good.
That's why my face, I'm like, it's about fucking time. That's what I was thinking.
The memes that came out of that were
nothing will top Proud Brian. Proud
and
Brian saw the world.
I was on the boat with George Washington. I was in the boxing ring with Muhammad Ali.
You were watching Kerry Strug at the Olympics. Yeah,
it was crazy what people were doing. I thank everybody for that. That was
they got me. It was months later. They got me at the combine in 2016 looking at Zeke. I got Proud KT.
I took the picture. I took the picture of you, and you were like, oh.
You were thirsty for Zeke.
I was like, this guy's an interesting guy. And then years later, I'm like, why is he on the team? I don't know.
Yeah, why?
Things change.
Oh, things change.
Have you guys seen the clip of Zeke chasing the interception down?
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah,
it's not great.
Yeah, he tried. I mean, he gave
at least
effort.
he tried. Yeah,
he gave effort. He did give effort.
I know it's a defensive tackles are not your box score position, but that's our fun stat of the week here is that Dak, CD, and Zeke all have more tackles than Mozzie Smith so far this year.
Wow. Ended on that.
Yeah. Rough. Bryan, thanks for spending an hour with us, going over some Ravens stuff.
I love you guys, man. Appreciate you.
You're the best. Y'all catch Bryan 2 to 7 p.m. over on 105.3 The Fan, the G-Bag Nation. 2 to 7.
And the Love of the Star podcast, Bobby Belt.
Yeah. Oh, Bobby. Well, we don't mention Bobby on this podcast.
Oh, my bad.
The thing about it is, I'm interested. We might make a mid-season trade. If any of you guys are interested in coming on Love of the Star, we'll trade Bobby for you guys. And we'll
go on your show. We don't need Bobby. We're good.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right. For Kent, for John, for Son, for Bryan Broaddus, I am Kevin. John will be back on Friday with the Week in Review podcast. So be looking out for that. And we'll see you next time on the One Star Cowboys podcast.
Have a great day.
For over a century, Johnny Walker has shared its bold spirit with the game of golf. Now, crafted with Devereaux Golf, Johnny Walker introduces the Johnny Walker Blue Label-inspired Sunday Golf Bag, elevating the game with sleek design, Blue Label hues, and refined gold accents. Celebrate your hole-in-one with a premium Sunday bag crafted by Devereaux Golf. Submit proof of your achievement to johnnywalker.com/blue-in-1. Please drink responsibly.